Ian, have you seen Ready Player One?
No, I have not.
I haven't either. It sounded like it was pretty good. What do we got in Rotten Tomatoes here for Ready Player One? Real quick here. I want to say it was like 70% without even ever looking, just from what people say. But what Ready Player One is, it's a celebration of like 80s and 90s nostalgia. Video game references out the wazoo. There's even Overwatch in there. It's modern. There's other stuff like Iron Giants in there.
They'll get sandblasted squeaky clean with pop culture references, from what I understand.
It seemed like before it came out, people were like kind of upset that it was appropriating, I guess, geek culture, even though it's based upon a book.
Well, I mean, I don't think it's appropriating geek culture. I mean, if anything, I mean, it's just that. I'm probably going to see it at some point, but I mean, if anything, I mean, probably not in theaters. I will watch it when it comes out. I expect to be passively entertained. I think people's problem is it's just, it seemed that the issue was that it's little substance, and the entire way it's getting over is essentially cheap pops.
Is that what people are saying?
There's a
like, oh, look at that! Look at that! Look, there's Mario there.
Yeah, it's the planet Benatar, and it's all this stuff, and
so that's really what's driving the plot versus something like Wreck-It Ralph, where it's just video games as a background, but then there's actually
a story. Whereas, from what I understand with this, and like I said, I'm not even gonna shit on it because I don't care. I mean, like I said, it's Spielberg. it's probably gonna be pretty amusing to the eyes and all that.
It's gonna have a good narrative because it's Spielberg.
Yeah. So but I think that's the problem, and that's at least part of the reason why I'm sort of uninterested. Is I talk about this stuff all day. I mean, this is work. This is what I do.
How have people come into the shop and talk about the movie?
People seem to be
pretty okay
with it, and I imagine that when I see it, I'll probably be pretty okay with it.
It's not like a Pixel situation, which was an atrocity.
No, but it is. I mean, it's definitely. It seemed to have been a book that certainly, and a movie that is certainly, riding on a lot of references, and let's see what we can notice and what we can find.
Well, it seems like Rotten Tomatoes was down for me for some reason. Couldn't get to the website. I'm not sure why. I was just trying to see, but it seemed like it's done well at the box office. So what is it? So we're meandering here,
right?
Which is what I tend to do. But so what's the big deal about this? I guess the plot of the movie is to find all these Easter eggs, and then you get control of the world you're in, right?
Yeah, you're trying to find an Easter egg, and you gain control of the Oasis, which is
the virtual world that you hang out in.
Online game world that they're all hanging out.
You get all. It basically means you take over really everything, because that's where everything happens in the virtual reality. That's what controls everyone's lives.
And what's happened is, and the point of this topic is, the Adventure 2600 cart has jumped up in price
because of this movie.
Okay. And there is a spoiler here. Apparently, it's, I guess, a fairly big one. But
we'll just say, I guess, Adventure is part of the ending of the movie.
Yeah. So I started to get calls from people and texts after this movie came out. Like, if you have adventure cards, look up for them, pull them aside or whatever.
Christ, who cares?
We don't. I didn't pull any aside or hoard any. We still sell them for $3 a piece if you can come into Luna and find one. But everyone's really interested in the cart, because at the end of the movie, apparently the last thing that they have to do, I guess, is there's an Atari 2600 that has every game on the Atari 2600 pre-installed on it, basically. And what they have to do is, the only thing they really have to do is play Adventure on it. And what they need to do is actually not beat it, but find the Easter egg.
Which is the first Easter egg of video games that we know about. Right.
So the Easter egg they have to find is also...
You want to remind people what the Easter egg is in Adventure?
Yeah, it's an Easter exception. So in Adventure, the Easter egg is you find a room that has his last name is Robinette. What's his first name?
Was it Martin?
Yeah, now I'm gonna look.
Warren
Robinette, who was the developer of the game. Atari back then did not want to credit any of the developers. They didn't want any hot shots, or they didn't want any of them to be built up like rock stars. you know, they didn't want anyone to have that sort of ability to use it as leverage against them for, you know, looking for raises or anything like that, or anyone striking out on their own. So Warren Robinette, you know, hid his name in there for people to find so that they would know who created the game. It says created by Warren Robinette. And they used that in the movie. So they used an Easter egg in the movie to be the Easter egg, the final Easter egg that you have to find.
Sure.
Which is actually kind of a pretty cool tie-in, a pretty cool way of doing it.
It's smart. It makes sense.
It's smart. It makes sense. It's interesting. I guess that wasn't in the book. So that's a pretty so that's a pretty interesting way of doing it.
So they basically made it better than the book did.
Yep.
I figured, it's Easter egg, why not go back to the original? Let's make it part of the plot. It's actually clever.
Yeah, that kind of makes.
And if you were the guy who programmed this Oasis world, you might have done that, and you'd really have to know in the future about Easter eggs in order to know that.
Yeah, I think that's kind of clever. So that's why this Adventure 2600 card has jumped up in price.
It looks like on price charting, it went from. I didn't know. It looks like it was $10 the past couple of years, or $8. So it looked like that was a little more than the dirt common games. Adventure is always one of the most known Atari games, though.
Sure.
When you talk about it, so it's always gonna be a little bit more than Enduro. I say Enduro, but it's
the one you always bring up.
But it's jumped up to $22 in April. So it went from February $9.54. Then it jumped up to April to $22. So it doubled in price based upon this movie. So people are looking for this. They figure it's cool. They probably never. Most people probably never played an Atari in their lives. And like, oh, this is cool. We like this movie. It's pop culture. Let's look for it. You put it on the shelf. It's just like a memento.
Right.
These are probably not game collectors that are pumping this price up. I would think.
No.
They just want like a trinket from this awesome movie that celebrates pop culture that they like.
Yeah, and that's cool. I don't imagine that the value on it is the
value.
The value.
Interesting enough, from what I've seen, the evidence looks like people, the ones that are going for more money is the one with the graphics on it, not just the original one which just says Adventure and that's it.
And that one's harder to find.
Oh, sure. Those was like the first couple of years that they stopped making those. Which one I have?
I don't think the jump in price will last long.
No, it never does for this stuff.
Never
does.
People, like I said, people have been asking us if we've raised the price, or that suggesting that we should hold some back if we have any. And it's like, no, we've never bothered to pay attention to. Very, very, very rarely do I ever take an Atari cartridge and go, okay, this one needs to be set aside.
There are still probably 100,000 adventure carts in the U.S. scattered around the place.
I would say probably more than 100.
Okay, I'm being generous.
The game sold in the millions.
So I'm being generous. There's 100,000 remaining that are just around there. I keep going back to Classic Game Fest in Austin, where they literally had boxes of probably a few thousand Atari games for $1 each that no one was looking at. There was probably 90 adventure carts somewhere in all of those.
Sure. Just
like scattered around. Doesn't matter if they're worth $8 at the time. Now many people are going to look for it to buy it. So think about that. All the collections and people that have tons of Atari 2600 carts, that there has to be at least one. There's always one adventure in any lot of Atari games that's of any size, right? For the most part.
Sure.
It's one of those top 20 Atari games you think about. So that's why, again, this is gonna come back down to earth.
Yeah, I'll set aside a hero cart if I get a hero in, but an adventure, I can get 5 adventures in today, and I'm not going to set any of them aside.
Dirt common game.
I'm going to charge $3 for it, and I'm not going to bother.
You're not going to care if you lost that money, because you got to put it on eBay, and then you don't know when it's going to run out. So as an aside, I just looked up Sky King, because that was a game that went up after James and Mike Monday when they played it. It was also an AVGN Marathon exclusive. That went up to like $30-$40 at one point, if you remember that a few years back.
Yeah, it's not a super easy game to find on its own, but
it's not uncommon though. It's
not
borderline common. But now the one is this: you can buy it for $10.
Yeah.
So that came back down to earth. It might have taken a year, but it came back down. So go out to your local flea market this weekend, and you'll probably, if you see a lot of it at Atari 2600, you can make $15 on that cart, because there's going to be an adventure cart at your local flea market. There's going to be.
I'm sure someone at Kobe's is going to be charging $25.
Because we're already found out. You think people are going to, maybe these are people trying to corner the market, think they can corner the market in a 2600 game and get a bunch of them?
Yeah.
I think it's cool that they put that in the movie. We just spoiled it for everyone. Sorry. Sorry, you lose.
I said spoilers.